3, we want to talk about things that aren't on the unit circle. Okay? So if I ask you to find the cosine of 1.85, notice that there is no degree symbol after it. If there's no degree symbol, that's understood to be in radians. Certainly, I have no idea where 1.85 radians is. I mean, I could probably guesstimate, but it's not on my unit circle. So we're going to have a calculator to do this. So go to mode on your calculator and switch it to radian mode. Remember, you only have to do that if you're going to find the sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle in radians, not on your unit circle. And you literally just type it in, cosine 1.85, and read it to me to 3 decimal places.
Negative 0.276.
Negative 0.276. Is everybody's calculator displaying that rounded to 3 decimals? Yes? Okay. Well, now, did I write it down right? Negative 0.276? Okay. Now I want you to find the cosine of 0.5149 radians. What quadrant should that be in? A half a radian. How much is a whole radian? Approximately how many degrees?
180.
Nah, that's how many pi radians are. How many degrees are in 1 radian? Do y'all remember? We talked about it the very first day. Approximately 57. There are about 57 degrees in a radian. So if I'm about half a radian, I'm somewhere around like 28, 29 degrees. Yeah? You have no idea what I just said, do you? It's in quadrant 1, okay? I'd like you to use some number sense here. What quadrant was that in?
1, 2.
It's in quadrant 2, yeah. 1.85, what's half a pi? Half a pi is 1.57-ish, right? And a whole pi is 3.14. So 1.85 radians is between 90 and 180 because it's between 1.57 and 3.14. So that's why that's displaying as a negative. Okay, I'll stop torturing you. Type in cosine of 0.5149. And what do you get?
0.8703.
0.8.
703.
So 0.870 if I ask you to go to 3 decimal places. Okay, 0.870. Now, also what I want to point out to you guys, and you'll thank me for this. You know how your book sometimes does that thing? It says like, give as many decimals as displayed. Feel free to round your homework to 3 decimal places, to 3 or 4. You do not have to write out 8 or 9 decimal places. So you can just kind of change those directions to say round to the whatever, 3 or 4 decimals, if it doesn't already. Okay. Now these are things that some of you struggled with. So let's make sure we talk through these. If we're not looking for sine, cosine, or tangent, if we're looking for secant, cosecant, or cotangent, we have to type those in a little differently. If I want to find the cotangent of 1.3209, you actually type into your calculator 1 divided by tangent of 1.3209 radians. So if you're looking for a trig function that's a reciprocal, you type it in as 1 over 0.255. 0.255.
We don't have to write radians.
Well, that's not radians.
Okay.
That's radians. This is in radians. A trig function value, the answer to a trig function, has no units. But even if it were an angle, if it's in radians, you don't have to say radians. Some people do, but there's no symbol for it. How would I type secant of negative 2.9234? I would type it in as 1 over cosine, keep the angle, negative 2.9234.
For work, would we have to show the 1 over cosine?
I would, because just in case you made like a careless error typing it in, if you at least write it down, I'll know you knew what you were doing and you just made a careless error. If you don't, I can't give you any credit on a calculator problem.
Right.
So I recommend writing that stuff.
Alright.
Approximately what?
Negative 1.024.
Negative 1.024. Okay. Gosh, this is just so exciting. I can see like the excitement in your eyes just looking at me.
Isn't that only G4 sig?
I didn't do sig figs. I mean, I could have. If I didn't say, then you should have done significant digits. But I said just for the sake of whatever, let's just round to 3 decimal places. So just pay attention to directions. Okay, here's a caution. A common error is using a calculator in degree mode when radian mode should be used. So if you're using sine, cosine, or tangent buttons, you have to make sure you're in the proper mode. Now here's where things go bad in a hurry. If I am missing the angle, if I tell you what sine, cosine, tangent, secant, cosecant, or cotangent are, and I ask you to find the angle to go with it in radians. So let's look. It says, approximate the value of s in the interval from 0 to pi over 2 if cosine of the angle s is 0.9685. First, you have to recognize I'm asking you to find the angle. Shouldn't be hard. You look over here and you say what's missing? The angle, right? Then you have to know, am I asking you to find it in degrees or radians? Which one am I asking it in? Radians. And you know because you look at the interval. If I don't specifically tell you to find it in radians, you can tell by looking at the interval. I'm telling you to give me a quadrant 1 angle in radians because I said between 0 and pi over 2, not 0 and 90. So that's how we know we want the answer in radians, and that's how we know our calculator should be in radian mode. To get a calculator to tell you an angle, what's the first thing you have to touch? Second sine, cosine, or tangent, right? So for this one, we're going to type in second cosine, which will pop up as cosine to the -1, which is inverse cosine of 0.9685. So that's what you type into your calculator, second cosine, to get the inverse cosine. And then that will give it to you as an angle in radians. And let's round this one to 3 decimal places as well, just for the sake of time. 0.25. Did you guys get 0.25166159117?
Yeah.
Yes, so 0.252. 0.252 radians. Does that make sense? No questions.
You said you don't write radians.
This is radians, but I'm okay. You don't have to. If you list an angle without a unit, it's assumed to be in radians. You only have to put a symbol when it's degrees. Yes. Okay. Last one, you guys. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I should make up one more just because you look bored. I'm going to ask you to find the angle whose cosecant is equal to, I don't know. How about -1.5? No, not -1.5. Positive 1. Positive 1.5, yeah. That should work. If you're trying to find the angle from a cosecant, how do I have to type that in? Second sine.
1.5.
So you type second sine, and then here's where you do 1 over. The 1 over goes in the parentheses, 1 over 1.5. So do that for me, and tell me how many radians that is.
0.729. 0.730.
So 0.729, blah, 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 but it rounds up to 0.730? Okay, 0.730. A lot of you missed that on the first unit test when I asked you to find the angle of like a cosecant or something because you put the 1 first. You wanted to do 1 over and then second sine, but when you're looking for an angle, you have to do the second sine as your very first thing, then you can flip it if you need to. And that's just, the way we have to type it into our calculator. One more, you guys. Okay, so turn your calculators off because we're not going to use them. We are going to, without a calculator, because it says exact, we're going to find the exact value of the angle in the interval between pi and 3 pi over 2 if we know that the tangent of that angle is +1. So that's a lot of words. I'll pause for a minute and let you jot that down. Okay, so for us to figure this out, we have to first figure out, are they asking you to give the angle in radians or are they asking for degrees? We know it's radians. First off, your book will use S for radians, but also because of this interval right here is given in pies. So we know that's radians. Okay, what quadrant is this? It says between pi and 3 pi over 2. So it's asking me to give what an angle from which quadrant?
3.
Quadrant 3. So we know what quadrant we're in now, right? Now, if the tangent of an angle is 1 or -1, what's its reference angle?
45.
Reference angle is 45 degrees. And because it's in quadrant 3, well, it doesn't even matter about the quadrant. I know it's something pi over 4, right? But in quadrant 3, the tops are all 1 more than the bottoms. So this would be 5 pi over 4. So that's how you do that without, having an actual unit circle in front of you and looking through it. You need to get very, very familiar with your unit circle. You're going to have your review in class next time and your test the time after that. So all of your homework is due next class.